Hello, my name is Gavin Tremblay. I'm from Hoxie, and I work for a channel seed dealership, which is actually Prime Seed and Agronomy. He's out of Hoxie, but he lives in Moreland, so he's kind of got both offices. About me, I grew up in Hoxie, just graduated last year from Hoxie, so I'm in Sam's class. Sad story for her. I love to hunt, fish, play sports, and farm. I will be attending NCTA, Nebraska College of Technical Agriculture, and I will be studying diversified ag. It's kind of weird because I'm going to be an agronomist, but I'm not going for agronomy. But going for a diversified ag gives me kind of a better background, more broad spectrum to choose from. So I plan on returning back to Hoxie to be an agronomist and work on our family farm north of Hoxie. So my presentation is more about what I learned. So there's a bunch of pictures of gross, nasty bugs because I'm in a cornfield all day. So start out the planting season. We like to take a stand count, so you make sure all your plants are there and your planter is planting accurately, so the farmer feels comfortable. Because if you don't have a good population, you over fertilize, you need to know if you need to go back in there and replant or anything like that. So if you make a mark and you walk 17.5 feet and then make another mark and you count all the individual plants, there should be, depending on what you plant at, dry land is anywhere from 24 to 28,000 seeds per acre, plants per acre. And then irrigated, you can get up into 38 to 29 to 34, I guess. So that's how we take that, make sure our seed depth is good while we're out there. That's kind of our first check in the field. Rootworms is another big one, because if you're going corn on corn, these rootworms, little nasty things, can eat your roots. And then if you see a bunch of cornfields corn's laying flat, it's because these rootworms are in there. So being a seed salesman, we try to sell the traits that will knock these off. But if not, so we got to scout for these and make sure they're not in there, because it could destroy the farmer's field. So we got to know if we need to spray them and what to do to make sure the farmer's crop it does the best. Rapid growth syndrome is this really long yellow lime green looking streak in the middle. It's not a horrible thing, but it does. So if you go out there next year and you see a bunch of cornfields with like lime green streaks in it, that's RGS, which is just when the corn grows too fast so that it gets bound up in the whorl, and then it can just cause uneven growth, which will determine the population. Green snap is nasty. Nobody likes that. Usually it happens at a very early maturity and usually at growth points, but if it happens at a growth point, it can happen late. Like this plant was grown, but like one of the late storms came through and might have blew the top over, which can determine the yield. So we scout for green snap in the fields every week, and usually it's right behind bad wind storms. Like in Hoxie, we had 80-mile-per-hour winds. So that we scout for to make sure the farmer, because you can get so much money back if there's a certain amount, like over 30% green snap or something. Gray leaf spot or gray leaf streak, that's probably one of the worst fungus to have in corn, which are these little lesions right there. That can determine your yield, because it'll just take all of the plant material out and ruin the photosynthesis. So we got to scout for that, and there's one that's very similar, which is just bacterial leaf streak, which can all be knocked down by fungicides. So we got to scout and make sure to tell the farmers when to apply their fungicide so they can maximize their yield. Genetic flecking, this one is pretty rare. I just thought it was cool because you walk through and you say something's wrong with this cornfield, but that's probably the only plant in that cornfield. Southern rust, we don't have very much problem with that around here, but it can happen. which does the same thing that GLS does. Takes all the plant material so photosynthesis can't do its job. So, and there's a fungicide for that. Pollination, that's when those little rootworms, they eat that, and then they have the pupas or whatever, and then they become rootworm beetles, which these rootworm beetles they're on, I don't have a picture of them, but they're on top of the silks, and they can eat the silks that come out the end of the corn. And if they eat the silk can't transport the pollen into the kernel from the tassels. So then that's when you get the uneven pollination. So that's why we got to know when to spray those rootworm beetles. So this is what a corn plant should look like, but that is a poorly pollinated plant. Now this is an egg mass. So you think something that small will actually end up doing that much damage, but should be another one, yeah. So that's western bean cutworm egg mass. So there's moths that'll back down into the whorl of the corn plant, and the corn plant will grow out, and then you see those little things, which they are so hard to find. I've only found one this year, but Eric, my boss, we always have a competition. Somebody at the end of the season will buy a steak dinner if we count the most egg masses, and I think he's beat me like 5-1 or something like that. So that little egg mass will produce these worms. Those are the ones that you see if you eat your field corn or corn on the cob or whatever, and then they'll just chew in their way, and they'll eat some silks, but mainly they'll eat the corn and decrease the yield, which you don't want that happening. So then there's economical threshold on every one of these things that I've shown you, and it's hard to get them all, but if there's above 30% egg masses on the plants, and how you get that is you count like 50 plants, and then you take that times however many plants you've planted per acre, and then you get your factor there. So then you have an economical threshold to where you spray it. If it's over 30%, you spray it. That's pretty much it.